What's going on, sports fans, and welcome to a when technology gives out and you got to broadcast from an island in the desert, in the ocean type thing.
Thank God for iPhones, man.
Look, Tom Hanks ain't got nothing on us. This is
we
my
can do it. We can do it.
This is my Wilson.
I'm a big volleyball, bro.
Yeah,
I'm huge. Like I'm like a whole stack of volleyballs.
dude, you're perfect to me.
Call me Mr. Wilson.
Fair enough.
Hey, Mr. Wilson. That's Dennis the Menace for all you kids who are too young to remember that show.
I'm old enough to know it. I'm old enough to remember it. So we apologize for the mediocre camera work today.
Hey guys, it's all right.
My right shoulder is going to get a workout, but we got plenty of basketball for you.
Yep.
We're not going to start with our top 10 because we are going to just basically spend the whole show talking about the top 12, 15, 20, whatever kind of power ranking, because we know now more or less who's in a ballpark of what playoff scenarios. So let's start though with game balls. Aaron, you got a couple big shout outs for us.
All right, well, first I want to give a shout out to Foothills Christian freshman Jaden LaBelle. Career high 18 points and a drubbing of Army-Navy. That's good for the freshman. It really helps Foothills moving forward to have him, clicking on all on 6 cylinders. Let's give him 6.
Give him a V8, man.
Yeah, give him V8. Tyler Stanley Castillo, San Diego High School, 16 points and 9 rebounds. And a win over Hoover. Was one of his better performances of the season. He'd been in a little bit of a slump, but broke out of it. And, that's the type of performance the Cavers are going to need to, stay in this Division III hunt. So I want to give him, nice kudos there. Also want to give kudos to Jake Toffiau from Modern Day Catholic. 19 points, and the Crusaders' big road win over Montgomery. A lot of people had, including myself, had picked Montgomery to be the Mesa League champion, but that's a very stinging defeat for the Aztecs on their home court against a severely undermanned Crusaders team. So those are my game balls.
I will go with game balls out to some of the more eclectic schools that we have not talked about. Santana. Santana with a big win over Monte Vista earlier this week.
That's big for them.
Steel Canyon beating Helix.
That's huge.
That's huge.
That's a big upset.
Especially anytime. I know that I don't know basketball quite as well as you, but I feel like anytime it's under 10 points, it's a close game.
Yeah,
like it could have gone either way, type of thing. So
yeah, but that's a 4-win team, Steel Canyon, on the year. I mean, that's a big time win for their program.
Would you say that they stole that win?
Silly, man.
Parker beating Bishops.
Big one.
That's big in just the sense that helps. It's not an upset, but it helps confirm who we think Parker is. It helps us really.
No, it's crazy though. Bishops was actually ahead by double digits, like halfway through that game. So,
Bishops is not a bad team at all. Bishops, they're a very talented team this year.
Good comeback for Parker though.
Big win for Vista, much needed win over El Camino. El Camino flashes of greatness as always.
Beat RBV earlier.
Exactly.
So now you've got Vista game up on that pack in the Avo East standings.
Narrow but much needed win for Oceanside
over Sage Creek,
and Poway over Del Norte, and then the overtime Country Day win over SFC. That one also
They've
huge.
had some. Those two teams have had some pretty good games over the last couple of years.
Absolutely. So look, now let's transition into the bulk of what we want to talk about today, and that is my hypothesis out there to Aaron is that this is the first year that we're really going to get a legitimately quality analysis of the CIF Open Division playoff system, and by trickle down the D1 playoff system and all that. This is not a play for first, play for ninth type of season. This is right now we're looking at the math, and Mission Bay is 7th with wiggle room to go 6 or 8 overnight. Country Day, not even in the Open Division, but we're just talking about them beating SFC, who's currently 4th. So it seems like this year more than ever, there's no all-American TJ Leaf type person at the top blowing people out, and also it seems like at the bottom there is legitimately 11 teams right now that you could make an argument
should be in the Open
Division. Would, whatever verb you want to use, be in the Open Division. So starting just with the general hypothesis, is this the first year that we're going to get a legitimately good test? But then where do you want to jump off with after that?
Well, we talked about it before we went on, and one of the things that I brought up was that the last time we actually had a true upset or multiple upsets in the Open Division was in 2015 when Saints made it and won the thing as a 6th seed. after that point, there's only been one lower seed to actually win a game in the Open Division. That was Modern Day.
And that's including 4s and 5s.
Yeah,
beating each
4s
other.
and 5s. That's a number 5 seed Modern Day Catholic beating San Marcos last year. This year, we're looking at we're looking down at the standings, and you've got Saints at 1, and potentially Mission Bay could drop to 8. And
Mission Bay could lose 2 games and be in the D1 playoffs.
It could be in the D1 playoffs, exactly. Or, Parker versus Saints in the first game, or Torrey versus Mission Bay, which, think about that. Mission Bay already beat Torrey Pines this year.
Well, and that's where I think the parity is really fun to drive home. So right now how it sits, Saints, Torrey's, Foothill, SFC, Poway, San Marcos, Mission Bay,
and
Parker round out the 8. Of that, Parker's really the only one that's gotten now the least scathed, but Parker's lost to SFC. SFC's beat Foothills. Mission Bay has lost to Saints and Torrey. Torrey has beat Saints. Poway has not played all of these teams quite in the same way, but they've still taken 5 losses.
Poway beat Parker.
San Marcos got, at some points, absolutely boat raced in the Under Armour holiday, or the Torrey Pines Holiday Classic, and then, like we said, at La Jolla Country Day. So right now, I can give you those numbers, but I can also guarantee you that this is not going to be the same group.
I don't think so. I think as the season moves along, certain teams are going to rise. Mission Bay will start to get a boost because their strength of schedule will continue to improve. They play in the Olu Hoop Fest on Monday, which is going to be help them in terms of adding to that strength of schedule, playing Mayfair. You're going to have teams like a San Marcos who might not get that boost unless they can steal a game against Torrey Pines here and there. And La Jolla Country Day is going to have an opportunity to move back into the field if they can, win out in the Coastal League. Beating Parker twice will pretty much all but assure that they're going to be in that unenviable 8th seed. But this year, I don't think it's that unenviable. I think.
Well, so then let me ask you that, going back to my original hypothesis, does you saying that it's not unenviable to be that 8, should that be a sign to basketball fans that really pay attention to this playoffs? Because this could be the dream model of, look, this is how it's supposed to work. We just take 8 really good teams and we push them up into this other bracket and let bedlam ensue.
This could be, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore beating UMBC, Baltimore County.
Yes.
This could be UMBC beating Virginia in the first round. This could be the most fun we've seen in the Open Division ever. Whether now that might not be the greatest thing for seeding purposes at the statewide level, because you want to put your best foot forward with your best teams playing in the Open State, Open Division I. But for the locals, it's as fun as it's ever.
Well, you bring up an interesting point there of, I think that ultimately what the Open Division concept, as far as I've understood it, is supposed to be that you encourage teams to work their butts off to get to this playoff, that ultimately the best does rise out of that. So we'll have to see if, sitting here where we're saying, oh, this is going to be entertaining, we're super looking forward to this, if it does actually follow through, though, on, like you said, producing the best champion, or if it's a bunch of people just throwing punches in every direction and just one person has to actually win it.
I really think it's going to be a battle royale this year. I honestly, I don't know if this is going to be the year where the very best team emerges from the fray. I think it's going to be the team that gets hot.
Could we say history will be made no matter what?
That's fine with me.
Fair enough. Well, okay, so you've talked then also, I want to just transition into the Division I playoffs, because for as much as you're talking about Open and that unenviable 8th, historically speaking, there's sort of been a context of everybody's kind of cool with, I'll pump the brakes, we'll get some kids some rest.
We'll report a forfeit loss.
I try not to go back to that one, but yes.
Yeah, we're going to go back to that
one. But right now, Country Day at the 9, Vista at 10, Cathedral Catholic, Montgomery, La Costa Canyon, and then you get down into 15, where we got Mater Day, RB, Christian, La Jolla. This almost feels like there's also, in addition
a ton of parity there too.
Yeah, in addition to this is the first one where then 10 through 20 also has parity. So out of that second group, because I don't want the people to get too lost in the numbers and hit them over the head, but who out of that group might you say could take advantage of a year like this and make a deep run?
I'll give you 2 teams.
Please do.
Rancho Bernardo and Christian. Right now they're sitting at 16 and 17, which means that they would probably play each other in the first round. RB to me is really a wild card, because if you look at their record, Without Drew Cisse in the lineup, I think they went 1-4 over that stretch.
It's Braun-esque, yes.
Yes. So you bring him into the fold, and I think that they can at least compete with anyone. And if they're matched up with, say, Avissa in the second round of the playoffs, Vissa's tallest player, I think, is like 6'5". So having a 6'9" athlete who can kind of change the game, provides an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
Christian, I think, would be a dangerous team regardless because they have one of the best players in this, in Division I period in Jackson Larson.
And when you get into a playoff format, you can eventually just start force feeding Jackson Larson.
Exactly. I mean, that's when we get into playoffs. There's an old saying that it's not about X's and O's, it's about Jims and Joes. And when you got a Joe that's going to Northern Arizona who has taken over games this year, and that team is getting healthy, that team is getting guys back into the swing of things who sat out because of transfer. I mean, that's a really dangerous group. But the other team that kind of looms large in this whole thing is going to be Cathedral Catholic, as Obina Anyanwu has gotten back into health. They're 8-2, heading into the Holy War.
It's sort of the same thing that you were saying about Rancho Dorado. They have that one player who is obviously the linchpin.
Mm-hmm. And clearly, there are not many linchpins as
that are that size
or that critical to their team's success than Obina Anyanwu. So, like you said though, we're looking 9 through 18, and there's a lot of potential everywhere. I mean, LCC is a team that's kind of, in my opinion, underperformed this year.
They can shoot the ball with the best of them, but they can also fall off the face of the earth.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a team with legit size: 6'8" Sam Kramer, 6'7" Charles Williams, 6'5" Baylor Bremer, 6'4" Graham Cook. All potentially starters. 6'3" Brendan Perry. You've got size, skill, and yet they're just missing something.
But you're missing which is the most frustratingly non-quantifiable thing in all of sports.
The it factor, exactly. But if they find it before the playoffs start, they're dangerous too. I mean, there's lots of ways that this can go. I mean, but then of course you get towards the bottom, and then you've got the Sarahs, the Orange Glens, and Canyon Crest Academies of the world. And, that's where I think the parity, I think the cliff really is 19 at Helix.
But we're still at that point talking about 11 seeds out of an 18-team playoff.
Which is going to be fun.
And that's a legitimate, it works. It's fun. It's good. It's bedlam. It's how it is. And that's only the Division I playoff.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about D2, D3.
I don't think we need to dive into those today. We can maybe make next week. We can maybe as we close out the season now. Every week we do a different one. But I think that it's safe to say right now that what we're looking at is as we go into the second go through, tail end of the first go through, start of the second go through of league. There's going to be a couple huge key matchups in Avocado, Palomar, and Coastal. Those are the three leagues that people. Oh, and maybe a little Western.
No, in the Western.
And a little Western. People just need to pay attention to those four leagues and really be dialed in with the results there.
I think tonight's going to be a really important matchup too, because with Cathedral playing as well as they have been of late, they get a Saints team who's red hot too.
Yeah.
I mean, so you've got familial ties. Once brothers, Obina, Chibuzo were longtime club teammates with one another. I mean, there's a lot of different storylines. And, by the way, the winner of this is first place in Western.
And I'm super looking forward to, if Cathedral wins, coming back next week and just undoing everything we just talked about and completely restarting the argument all from scratch with a new number one. Any closing notes that you got to get to before we get out of here?
Guys, I've been really ramping up things on my Instagram account, Full-Time Hoops.
Dude, oh my gosh, yes. Bro,
it's been
go
fun.
follow Full-Time Hoops 1 on Instagram.
Dude,
that story. You are a millennial now. You are a freaking millennial.
Yeah, I actually have a story, and it's really tiny checked off, which means I'm putting in a lot of work.
No, I will say that the initial dynamic in this relationship was Aaron had the absolute. You went on Twitter, and Prep Insider sort of had we have a pretty fiery Instagram.
Very.
Dude,
I learned from the best.
We are but humbled and awed in your ability to do both of them now. So I have to hire a second person to just try and keep up to you, and I also have to have 2 kids and a second full-time job in addition to all this.
You can hire me. I mean that.
Okay, fair enough, because the other alternative was a lot more work for my end. So, look, yeah, definitely go follow this man's Instagram,
Thanks,
Fulltime
guys.
Hoops One, and we'll see you next.